World Combat Sports. Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. Here we are once again, World Combat Sports on deck to talk about some mixed martial arts and boxing, of course. You know how it all goes down. It's Thursday. Just one sunset outside the weekend for you all that's enjoying this relief, so to speak, from the COVID-19 lockdown. So you know what it is, man. Let's jump right into it. Basically the last fight card, man, was yesterday, and it was UFC Fight Night in Jacksonville, Florida. And the fight card was light, to say the least. And but to me, it didn't disappoint as I would expect, you know what I'm saying, in such a pandemic and a free fight night at that. The reason why I'm saying it didn't disappoint was that, you had Drew Dover against Alexander Hernandez, which that was a very entertaining fight. And then, you had Rothwell against OSP, which that was okay back and forth. You know what I'm saying? I can't really say too much about it. I mean, the activity was, a little bit in pockets, but it wasn't too much to the point where OSP moving up the heavyweight division, I expected him to make a statement. I didn't see the statement he was trying to make, man. He didn't seem like he had a sense of urgency, especially against a fighter like Rockwell, who kind of stylistically matches up well to his, touch and go type of pace. I want to bring some up right quick. Okay. What's going on, Fat Dad in the building? Salute to you, man. And the main event is primarily what I want to talk about. The reason being is that during the pandemic, man, I think a lot of people are limited what they can watch in combat sports. Yeah, I'm serious. That's any other combat sports besides mixed martial arts right now. It's the simple fact that if the focal point was knowing that we had a boxing bout coming up for those boxing fans, they would have tuned in to boxing, and they wouldn't even really gave the UFC any type of attention due to the fact that they're boxing fans. But what the UFC that hosts mixed martial artists have been able to do is somehow, grab some of those mixed martial arts fans through process of elimination, no options, very limited options, and to bring them over to the MMA fan base temporarily. Don't get it twisted. You're going to have a certain percentage of MMA fans that stay and a certain percentage that gravitate back over to boxing once boxing cards start to resume. Now, with mixed martial arts, man, it's been here since the 90s. It's been here for longer than that. It's been here for a while. But regulation, sanctioning, we've seen some bloody fights. All right. And what's going on here with social media is that we're in a pandemic, and you have a lot of people that's out here that was tuned in to the only resort they had to watch combat sports was the UFC, right? So the main event, you had Glover Teixeira, an old, wise, durable veteran, respectable. Glover Teixeira is respectable. In there with Anthony Smith. As you probably remember my predictions, I pretty much said I thought Anthony Smith was win this fight. I thought he was he's a younger fighter, and he's coming off that 5-round decision to John Jones, and then loss. You know what I'm saying? Decision loss, and then he steps in there with Alexander Gustafsson, arguably the top 5 in the game right now, and he subs him out in 4. He stops him. So handing him with Glover Teixeira, knowing that his jiu-jitsu game is on point, I thought Anthony Smith would do what he needed to do to win the fight. I thought he would be quicker, sharper for the duration of the 5 rounds. And I thought at one point in time he would be able to stop him. In my mind, I thought he would be able to stop Glover Teixeira. I seriously thought, the tools that he presents, man, and who he's been in there with his last 2 fights, I thought he would be too much for Glover Teixeira. I was wrong, man. It's okay to be wrong. You know what I'm saying? Fat Daddy said, I picked Smith, but who would have thought Glover was going to impose his will like that? I picked Rockwell by knockout. He definitely outworked him and earned the decision. Yeah, I agree with both of those, man. I picked Smith. And in the 3rd round, look, people need to understand, if you look at my thumbnail, it talks about the outcry. And this is what I want to mention about the outcry. The outcry may indeed be the individuals that's not used to seeing mixed martial arts. But then again, I say to myself that it's a lot of people that was fighters that's complaining about the fight. And I'm wondering why. Is it not too much to report on? You know what I'm saying? Is it not enough fight cards out there to report on? So you have to bring some viewership on in a negative way to what you just witnessed against Glover Teixeira and Anthony Smith. I don't understand why certain top tier or top name reporters are acting like they never seen fighters out there bleed or get punished more than Anthony Smith. Now, when Glover Teixeira landed that uppercut, hit him with a left, and pretty much when Anthony Smith got hit with that right uppercut, his eye, he grabbed his eye like to say, you know what? Usually it's an eye poke, right? Hold on for a second. But that's not the case. Glover Teixeira hit him clean with an uppercut, and it probably hurt his orbital bone or whatever the case may be. So when it came down to him backing up against the cage, taking more punishment, the onslaught began. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't think that Anthony Smith would make it out of the 3rd round. But what I did see from Smith, he was still moving. He was still trying to escape, still defending himself. Now, in the sport of boxing, they always tell you must defend yourself. In mixed martial arts, defend yourself. But check this out. It also depends on the fighter that's in there with the referee. It all depends on the fighter that is being pummeled at the time, because some fighters have been in that situation before. The referee won't even think about stopping the fight because they've seen this fighter. They're educated enough. They are pretty vigilant on the history that this fighter has. So if the fighter start taking a beating, they say, yeah, we're used to seeing so-and-so take a beating. But guess what? They wasn't used to seeing Anthony Smith take a beating. They wasn't used to seeing a fight like this with no crowd. They wasn't used to all that. They wasn't used to certain eyeballs tuning in to a fight card that haven't seen these type of fights before. So when Anthony Smith started to take punishment from Glover Teixeira, it looked worse than what it really was. I'm telling you, like Anthony Smith, he got a beat down. He got a whooping. But man, I have to sit up here and look, I got to ask myself, like, how do I criticize, or how can I be a critic of what I was looking at in the 3rd round? Am I going to sit up here and tell you the fight should have been stopped? No, because Anthony Smith at certain points in the fight was still defending himself. You know what I'm saying? He was still defending himself. And then when he made it back up to his feet, what little oxygen and gas that he had in the tank, he was still trying to return a counter, stepping elbows. He was still trying to change the momentum of the fight. I guarantee you, if Anthony Smith would have hurt Glover Teixeira, he would have dumped everything he had. He would have been able to change gears. He would have been able to hit a different energy level to try to finish that fight. That's just what adrenaline does to you. But Glover Teixeira was able to weather the counter, the return onslaught from Anthony Smith, and maintain his distance very good, and was able to land some hard shots. And he was able to, drop Anthony Smith again. Now, granted, I could have thought a million times that Glover Teixeira could at least subbed out Anthony Smith in the third round. But Anthony Smith, like I said, was still moving. Fourth round come around. The fight started on their feet just a little bit before Glover Teixeira was able to land some very hard punches once again. Give it up to Anthony Smith. He tried what he could only do with his energy level and everything that was going on with the punishment that Teixeira was giving him. Strict, solid punches from Glover. And hey, if you think someone like Glover, he hurt Anthony Smith in the third round with the uppercut, you think he wasn't going to go back to that goddamn uppercut? He sure did. He sure did. And then in the clinch, he was landing some knees. And once he was on the ground, pretty much Glover Teixeira did what the hell he wanted to do. I mean, countless of rabbit punches in the third round. Then in the fourth round, he was able to land some hard shots from top position. Even then, he didn't stay when he had him mounted. He was somewhat in side control sometime, and he was still landing some punches from the top position. He had back control several times, and he was just trying anything and everything, landing some crushing knees to the rib cage of Anthony Smith. And I'm looking at Anthony Smith, and I know he's hurting, but he's still moving around. He's still changing positions. He's still trying to avoid as much damage as he possibly can. So I'm like saying, shit, damn, Anthony Smith is tough as shit. He's tough. And Glover kept on piling it on. I mean, this brutality is what's expected with 4-ounce gloves. Him busting the cauliflower ear of Anthony Smith is expected when you're landing that many rabbit punches to the same area. And once the ear start bleeding, it's not like Teixeira just stopped and say, oh, he's bleeding, let me change over to the right ear. No, he was trying to goddamn bash that in, enough to the point if it bled enough, the fight may be stopped. But in the fourth round, they kept going. Glover still dominating. I mean, I'm saying to myself, this could be a 10-8 round or a 10-7 round in the fourth round. It could be a 10-8 or a 10-7. What I do know, it's not a 10-9. Glover dominated Anthony Smith bad in the third round, dominated him in the fourth round. And in the fifth round, Jesus, I'm looking at this and I'm like, damn, Smith is still trying. But when a man starts to surrender, when he's beaten, he's battered, and he cannot do anything else to make this fight look like he can come back, you know what I'm saying? He's able to return from the depths of hell and send Glover Teixeira to the canvas. That wasn't the vibe or energy that we was getting from Anthony Smith. Man, he showed a lion's heart. I'm not going to lie. Anthony Smith showed a lion's heart. He showed that he wasn't a quitter. And I was just talking about this the other day, how certain people want to award fighters when they losing. And I get where it's coming from if it's deserving. But even with Anthony Smith losing, he showed a different level to him being outworked the way he was. He showed a different capacity to how much fortitude he has, how much courage that he has as a fighter. Him losing, and though he's lost several times before, I would have to take this fight with Teixeira and say, you know what? I have mad respect for Smith and his loss. It's not like I didn't respect him before. I just thought when he was in there with John Jones, like I said, I had respect when he didn't, take the easy win for the illegal knee. And then he went to a 5-round decision. But yet, the way he performed against Alexander Gustafsson, I truly thought Smith was changing levels to his game now. I thought he was turning the corner to his superstar status, possibly, to say, okay, now I've defeated somebody with a big name like Gustafsson. I'm ready. And I truly didn't see him going in there against Teixeira and being beat up in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round the way he was. I just didn't see that. I'm not claiming to be any type of professional assessor when it comes to these performances, but I truly believe that 1st and 2nd round Anthony Smith would have carried over the entire fight. I mean, I don't know what his camp looked like, you know what I'm saying? But he was on point the 1st and 2nd round. But when he got caught in the 3rd, and he just started to falter from there, but he was still fighting the little pockets that he was standing up, I said, yeah, he's coming back. He's coming back for sure. He's coming back. I think the referee did a good job in not stopping the fight. Perspective change. In the heat of the battle, from the outside, even ringside, the perspective is different. I totally agree. The perspective changes everything, man, especially the referee that you have in there. I know a lot of people used to criticize what's his name? What's his name? What's the one that doesn't work in the UFC no more? Not Steve Mazzagatti. It'll come to me. If you know who I'm talking about, just post it in a live chat. But he was one of the ones that let fights go on for a long time. Herb Dean has been in there with some very bloody fights. He had his good. He has more good than he has bad. You know what I'm saying? He landed the uppercut in the 3rd. He was hurt. Facts. You have to give the fighter a chance to recover. If he's defending himself, which he was, it's combat sports run by professionals. The one thing I have to say about this, though, is that when I see mixed martial arts, right, and I see the punishment that he took to start it off, the kickstart, the downward spiral of Anthony Smith losing this fight. I look at them wearing 4-ounce gloves, and I look at how the referee was allowing them to continue to fight, even when Anthony Smith was starting to bleed and he was taking a beating on the ground. And then I compare that to, February 22nd on the last fight, where we just have people saying, shit, Wilder Fury, that was a beat down, and he could, he was on his feet fighting. But I don't think he took a beating like Anthony Smith took with 4-ounce gloves on for 3 freaking rounds. And look, even though the boxing match, I try to tell people this all the time, boxing matches for males are 3 minutes per round. 3 times 7 is 21 minutes, right? If you take a mixed martial arts fight, it's 5 minutes per 5 rounds, which is 25 minutes. You're in one round longer than a boxing round. You're in there for 5 solid minutes. I thought within that time frame, Anthony Smith took a lot of damage. I truly thought, he took more damage than I saw in the last fight with Fury and Wilder. I mean, come on. I know Deontay was bleeding and had a fat lip. I know that. But boxing and MMA fans are different. MMA fans in a sense, are used to seeing blood. They're used to seeing certain other techniques used to cause a fighter to bleed. Shin to the face. There's no padding between that. Shin to shin. Absolutely no padding. And then fist to face. Hardly any fat. This is 4-ounce gloves we're talking about. Anthony Smith took the beating, but I didn't like sit up there and say, you know what, this is the worst fight I ever seen. It just wasn't. I remember Jim Miller being in a guillotine choke by Nate Diaz, and his tongue was stuck in between his teeth. And if the referee wouldn't have been aware, it could have he could have bit his tongue off. Because, you know, Nate Diaz being a BJJ black belt, it wasn't no way Miller was getting out of that guillotine. What about Mark Hunt and Bigfoot Silva? It was brutal. You're talking about Mark Hunt in his Grand Prix days, Bigfoot Silva. That was a bloody freaking match. What about even Bigfoot Silva against Cain Velasquez? That shit was bloody. What about Joanna Jędrzejczyk against Wiley Zhang back in February or March? I believe it was March. Her head looked like a freaking bucket. So what I'm trying to say is, I'm not sure why people don't understand like how that translates to punishment. Like mixed martial arts, they have a lot more areas of the body that they can strike with. But then you hear some boxing fans, they'll sit up here and claim that they was trying to go out here and save a fighter, or this was just too much punishment. I guess I'm a little bit, I'm not insensitive, but I'm looking at mixed martial arts being 5 minutes in a cage, taking elbows to the face, teeth falling out. Anthony Smith's teeth was being knocked out. You know what I'm saying? This dude is taking some extreme punishment. And I'm saying he's still moving around. He's still fighting. He may be in a bad place right now, but he's still grinding. You know, he's still grinding. He don't have much left in the tank, but he's still in the fight. Barely. What I mean by being in the fight, he's still there. He has a pulse. He's still aware of what's going on. Even when Glover attempted to try to sprawl and change positions to the back, Anthony Smith prevented that from happening temporarily, just a window. That told me that, you know, he's not as bad off. But then I hear all these people, like I hear Chair Sonnen, and, you know, I even heard Dana White say it was hard to watch. You know why it was hard to watch? Because it was no crowd there cheering it on. It was just the judges, the commission, the commentators, the two fighters and the referee. That's why it was hard to watch. If you put two people in the room and they throw down, of course it's going to be hard to watch, because that's all you have right there. Some people, if the crowd was there, maybe Anthony Smith may have generated a little bit more energy to try to come back. But being that it was a quietness to that arena, a lot of fighters just didn't push through it. They don't have that damn extra outside cheering and echoing to bring them to a whole nother level to fight through it. I'm just saying. That's a good point there, Fat Daddy. Good point. Smith reminded me of Cerrone. He just wasn't there that night. Sometimes fighters' body and mind don't respond for various reasons. You know, check the box on that. I thought he did, to be honest, I thought he did much better than Cowboy Cerrone. Just because Cowboy Cerrone says that 2 days before the fight, he didn't feel like he wanted to be there. Anthony Smith went 5 rounds. I'm sorry. Anthony Smith went 5 rounds with Glover Teixeira now. That's on a 3-fight win streak. I have to look at that. Cowboy Cerrone went out in 40-something seconds. Anthony Smith looked good the first 2 rounds. So I partially agree with what you're talking about, man. I partially agree, because the first 2 rounds, Anthony Smith was giving it to Glover, giving it to him. But it's the 3rd round when he caught and Glover was able to land that punch that it kind of spiraled, a different way for Anthony Smith, and he found himself in trouble, big time. But Cowboy Cerrone, I get on him at the end. You need to fill out an application with the UFC. You're very thorough, bro. I appreciate that, man. I would definitely like to, be close enough to do media, man. I hope so. I'm talking, trying to get in, but it's a funny game there, Fat Daddy. I'm telling you, it's a funny game when you have a close-knit community like mixed martial arts media, right? In the UFC, right? In the UFC, and you have the same faces there. But in boxing, you have multiple faces from YouTube everywhere. But what you don't see in the UFC is individuals that may be on YouTube talking about mixed martial arts, because that's not a lot of us, to be honest. Like, a lot of people who talk about MMA are in groups. They bounce ideas off one another, which is great. But when it comes to majority of combat sports, the YouTubers, they are reporting on boxing. Myself, I can report on boxing and mixed martial arts, but it's hard to get into the community of the UFC. They just have it like that right now. Some of these people, they have this thing, like, they look good in front of the camera and they're reporting on, asking questions. It's different than what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, some people look good in front of the camera and they can talk about, ask the fighters questions. I like just, having the opportunity to sit down with some of these fighters, man, and get to know what's on their mind, man, and talk about some shit. That's all. I appreciate it, though. Good looking out, though. Styles may fight even in the UFC. I agree, man. Yeah, Big John McCarthy, man, the veteran of the sport, the OG. Big John, man, when he left, I was like, damn, I look forward to seeing Big John as a third man in the cage. I do. But I have to give it up for Big John. He is one of the overseers, one of the commentators now in a different organization. I believe he's commentating over there. It's not in the UFC. I forgot what he's commentating. Is it Bellator? I'm not sure, but I know he has a paying job doing commentary now. A note for Big John McCarthy is the 12-6 elbow. Not to get too far off. I'm just going per the comments in the live chat. Not to get too far off the subject, but John McCarthy actually advocated to bring the 12-6 elbow back because he made a good point. The guy who actually was able to successfully get that banned was a guy on the commission that actually witnessed an ice-breaking contest. And he was saying if somebody can raise their elbow above their head 12 o'clock and thrust it down at 6 o'clock to break ice, then that striking technique shouldn't be legal in the UFC cage. Not a strike that was landed on human beings, but a strike that was breaking a substance, a frozen unit of liquid. You know what I'm saying? Not to mention that a human can basically move their head and deflect certain strikes even from their back. But ice isn't going to move because it isn't a life form. It is a frozen block, a unit, a mass. So if somebody chooses to break something, I'm asking myself, well, the commission, I'm pretty sure he's seen people break brick. He's seen people break wood. How would he be so amazed to the point where this guy's breaking ice? I need to make sure this is banned in the UFC. John McCarthy actually fought to have that shit reinstated, and he just couldn't do it. So to this day, 12-6 elbow that John Jones has one loss for with Matt Hamill is because of the commission saw an ice-breaking contest. Real talk. Josh Talks UFC. Salute, man. What's good? What's good, man? Smith corner was terrible last night. Barking orders didn't stop all night. Sometimes you have to let your fighter go out there and perform and not bark orders. His corner should have saved him. um, like once again, I'm looking at this from a different window, and if his corner wanted to take advantage of the absence of the crowd and know that he was in there with a pretty good boxer, Glover Teixeira has pretty decent hands, man. If they wanted to give orders back and forth, that doesn't mean Smith has to. You know what I'm saying? Smith doesn't have to conform to the orders given just because he has a clear audible. Just because he has that doesn't mean he has to execute. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't mean that. It's just the point where his corner was putting him through a faster pace to try to get the older Glover Teixeira out of the cage, out of the fight, try to finish the fight early. So if they was barking orders from him early on, Anthony Smith didn't have to do it. He didn't have to perform and execute every order that he heard in a solid ass arena. He didn't have to do it. He's a grown ass man. This is a man who fought off an intruder in his house. This is a man who's been in sport for quite some time, who was in the UFC prior, lost, went to a neighboring organization, and then returned. Anthony Smith knows better. You know what I'm saying? I don't agree with the collective hoopla that his corner fucked him over. They was terrible. They was doing like any other corner was. Shit. They was giving him orders to try to keep the pace with enough pressure on Glover Teixeira to try to break him down early. But the only thing about it, we're in a pandemic. We really don't know what type of training camp Smith had. So he could not maintain that pace. After the second round, near the end of the second round, it seemed like Smith was tiring just a little bit. He couldn't hold the pace. Liability is in both palms. You know what I'm saying? Liability is in both palms, man. Anthony Smith, he heard it. That doesn't mean he had to go out there and execute it at that speed. He didn't have to. He could have just heard it and say, you know what? When the time is right, I'm gonna execute whatever they're telling me to do. 1, 2, 3, whatever the combination set is, I'll do it. Low kick, elbow, whatever. Takedown. He's a goddamn elite fighter, man. He could have figured it out. But I disagree with his corner fucking him over, though. And you could argue that the last 3 rounds were 10-8 rounds. They were. Look, the 4th round could have been a 10-7. It was a beatdown. But the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round was absolutely a 10-8 round. A 10-8 round in that perspective is, just say, for instance, like I always say, if a fighter takes another fighter down and they land enough damage from the top positions, side control, whatever, right? That can constitute a 10-8 round if the fighter that's in the most vulnerable position isn't able to return any type of damage. You know what I'm saying? They're not even able to take back the momentum or whatever. If the opposition is able to land solid freaking damage to their opposition on the ground from a takedown. I'm just using the takedown because a lot of people say, okay, you get a takedown, that's automatically points to win the round. But when you have someone like Glover who lands a shot, knocks Anthony Smith to the canvas, and was able to work him over while Anthony Smith was always on bottom, that can constitute a 10-8 round. In the 4th round, though, it was even worse. It was even worse. It could have been a 10-8, 10-7. I think one judge did give the 4th round a 10-7 in favor of Glover Teixeira. And then the 5th round, we all saw what happened. Beat down again, 10-8. True, my brother, you're right. Good points, Josh UFC. Appreciate that info there, Josh. Love John McCarthy and Josh Thompson podcast, one of the best podcast MMA shows out there. Yeah, I like Josh Thompson, laid back. You know what I'm saying? laid back, chill. Both of them are kind of laid back. You know what I'm saying? I kind of need one to be a little bit more energetic and one laid back. Both of them are pretty much reserved, but very knowledgeable type of dudes. You know what I'm saying? I listen to him myself. I'm not gonna lie. I listen because John McCarthy has been in the game for quite some time. Seriously. So the man is very knowledgeable. He's seen a lot in mixed martial arts, and I respect him. And the same Josh Thompson. You know, I still remember when my boy Eve Edwards, when Eve Edwards got there, was able to gain back control, and he pushed Josh Thompson out in front of him and landed that right high kick and knocked him out and was able to finish the fight. I still remember that fight, man. But besides that, Josh Thompson had some pretty decent fights. Seriously, he did. He had some pretty decent fights. Jonah, what's good, man? Salute. Y'all leave your comments in the live chat, man. You know what it is. I don't have no problem, you know, engaging those who are in the live chat. You could break. Let me finish with Anthony Smith right quick. So when the fight was stopped, I like the sportsmanship of Glover Teixeira. I don't expect anything less from him. Good guy. So he helped Anthony Smith up, and he kind of felt bad about knocking out Anthony's teeth. You know what I'm saying? I can understand how that may be the case, but that just goes to show you, man, he was willing to do as much damage as he possibly could to Anthony Smith to get the stoppage, but yet he still had compassion to you know, when the fight ended, to help the man up and to respect the fact that he was a warrior, even in defeat. You know what I'm saying? So I salute him for that. But Anthony Smith truly needs to take some time off. He's had a fight outside of the cage. We really don't know how much that took out of him, fighting off an intruder in his household. We don't know where his mindset was. You know what I'm saying? We don't know how that affected him. You really can't read Anthony Smith that much. But for an intruder, a bona fide intruder, to be in your house and you have to fight him in hand-to-hand combat, that's a different story. Even for Anthony Smith being a well-skilled, highly elite fighter, even for him, I don't think he's forgot about it. You know what I'm saying? And that was really before he was supposed to step in there. So salute to both of them, though. Salute to the fight, man. Salute to a battle. Salute to a war. Smith probably had a terrible camp with the home invasion, and we don't know what was going on mentally with him. I don't know if Smith would ever be the same after that, but that's just my thoughts. We don't, yeah, I agree, Josh. We really don't know what the headspace is like for Anthony Smith. We don't know what's sitting on his thought process, being that he had to protect his family, he had to protect himself, his kids was in there. Man, I'm telling you, man, he should have just goddamn grabbed the nearest freaking shotgun and goddamn went to work, man. Seriously. I mean, he went hand in hand with this guy who could have had a weapon and changed Smith's life forever. It could have changed his family's life. You know what I'm saying? So I just don't know why he put that effort into just fighting this guy with his hands. And then, you know, he said himself that he couldn't knock the guy out. He couldn't get the guy to stop moving. And I don't know if that played a role in him, you know, as far as him being one of these top elite fighters. I don't know how that affected him, being that intruder was in his home and he really couldn't get the guy to stop fighting with all the skill set that he has, man. Why in MMA is looked down on if you throw the towel in, and not a lot of people do it, but in boxing, it's a normal thing. I never understood that. Good point, solid point. In boxing, it's something that's been done for quite some time. And I can tell you this, for the towel being thrown into boxing, much more rounds in the sport of boxing years past. You're talking about boxing 15 rounds. You're talking about them trying to change the sport and knock it down to 12 rounds for championship fights. And then, you know, regular fights can go 10 rounds. Now you take the minutes, 3 rounds, you take heavier gloves, 8 to 10 ounces or whatever. Yeah, a fighter is on their feet and it's one directed target that they're able to use, and that is the head and the body above the waist. You know what I'm saying? You cannot hit below the waistband. So you have a target in front of you. You're going to the body, whether it be hooks, whether it to the rib cage, the chest, with a jab, to the face, or whatever the case may be. This is what is transpiring in the sport of boxing. You have a target that is very limited compared to mixed martial arts. Waist up. Mixed martial arts, guess what? You have your legs. You might have a temporary relief with them kicking your legs than you have with them jabbing to the body. In boxing, they can get away with saying, okay, I'm gonna jab you to the body and jab you up top. But that is every round you guaranteed to get hit in the body. You guaranteed to get hit in the face. You guaranteed, unless you get knocked out, you guaranteed to receive that type of punishment. Michael Johnson's in the building. Salute to you. And thanks for the donation, man. Real talk. Salute to you. Appreciate that. He said, ain't no fair ones when somebody runs up in your house and try to take the money and try to take the money, put the couch. Ain't no fair ones when somebody run up in your house and try to take the money. I think you said put them out. I'll tell you, you know, it would have been as simple, you know, if I would have seen a shadow. That's all I'm gonna say. It would have been simple for me. I ain't going hand in hand with somebody I can't see just because I see a silhouette. A lot of hidden components consist of a silhouette. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you don't have light in your house and it was in the early AM. Man, hell no. But I appreciate that, Michael Johnson. Boxing talking more. Appreciate that. Salute, bro. Marvin can't catch a break. Okay. This is a good one. I'm glad you mentioned this. Josh say, feel bad for Marvin Vettori. People are hating on the guy for trying to fight Carl Robinson. But people need to understand Marvin traveled to London for a canceled card, now Florida. I would be mad. I absolutely agree, concur with the entire narrative. Vettori can be mad at Robinson for the simple fact that 2 things, like you just mentioned, he did travel to a fight card that was canceled. He did show up to Florida. It was a fight during the pandemic, and he definitely would have liked to get this check, but he wasn't able to because his opponent came in 1.5 pounds over. Now, the reason why Vettori was probably upset, he probably felt that, hey, you saying you're going to the freaking hospital, you know what I'm saying? It's from the weight cut, but you up here checking out of a hotel and you look healthy. And, you know, the two had words. If Robertson, or Roberts, his name, Robinson, if he was able to get an IV and to talk trash back to Vettori, he had enough energy to step into the cage. All you had to do was step in the cage and answer the bell. You would have got a paycheck. These fighters are starving. They was very, very happy when Dana White said, man, we're going to put on a card in Florida. They opening up the gates for us. They declared WWE essential for business. Dana White and his people was already on the phone. Guess what? He was setting up arrangements for the UFC to put on a fight card. UFC 249 set it off. Then this past card Wednesday, it did fairly good in the main event. You know, like I said, Drew Dover and him being in there and fighting the way he did against Alexander Hernandez, absolutely fun to watch. You know what I'm saying? And the main event. So I understand why Vettori would be upset, man. He don't get paid. He just came on a vacation, but yet he didn't get what he came for. He didn't get the throw hands, and plus he didn't get the damn earn a check. Hell yeah, I would be upset. Scott, would love to see a Walt Harris win this weekend, and a lot of people as well. Heartbreaking what happened with his daughter, and watching behind the scenes video had some tears in my eyes. Real talk. That's real talk. You know, I really can't dilute that because that was his stepdaughter, I believe. But daughter, period. It was bad the way it went down. I remember them basically saying in the media that a phone call went out, or she called them, or they called her, and they was able to speak with her. And she said, "Yeah, I'll call you back. I'm with a friend. I'm with a friend." And that was the last time they heard of her. And then they end up finding her passed away. Absolutely, that's heartbreaking. Absolutely, no doubt about it. But as you know, my perspective, I have to put it out there. Like, I've seen Alistair Overeem fight more than I've seen Walt Harris. Period. I don't sit up here and gravitate the fighters from incidents that's winning their life or anything. When I'm reporting on fighting, I try to give an assessment based on the resume that they're presented, their body work, and everything else, right? I try to stay away from extreme left bias when reporting on combat sports. Now, we all know Alistair Overeem has taken some brutal losses. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people was replaying the knockout between Francis Ngannou and Alistair Overeem over and over again. And then he went in there and got his lips split open. But can you imagine? Check this out. Can you imagine Alistair Overeem having his lips split open the way it was, healing up? This shit is still in the media. And now he's returning this weekend against Walt Harris. Like, this dude lip was split all the way up to his damn left nostril, right? He's back to face Walt Harris. And once again, this is where the wedge happens between boxing fans and MMA fans. And this is why me covering both sides of the sport, I really don't see when, you know, boxing goes the way it is. I always kind of compare the two as, you know, multifaceted striking over here in mixed martial arts from many different levels, from head to toe. And then you go from boxing, left and right hand, from the waist up. And still you get boxing fans that'll be like, save his life, throw in the towel. And I get where they're coming from, because with heavier gloves, people, is not to protect the fighter. It's to protect the hands. Look, it's to protect the hands of the fighter, not to protect the opposition. It's to protect the hands of the fighter. That's it. That's what boxing is for. They have limited rules compared to mixed martial arts, but the shit that we see in mixed martial arts, in my opinion, is much more brutal. So I really can't go in deep detail as to the encephalitis or encephalopathy or the pugilistica that happens in boxing. But I can tell you this, getting hit in the head with an 8 to 10 ounce glove, and even in sparring, you have higher, heavier gloves that they work with to preserve their hands and everything. Yeah, it can get wicked. Sometimes instincts takes over and mistakes are made by the fighter. Sometimes the corner can only offer advice based on similar fights they have been exposed to. They fail, but not because they didn't try. Solid point put out. Yeah, I get it, Mike. I get it. You know what I'm saying? Forget all that hand-to-hand shit when you see a silhouette, bro, for real. That's a good point. Both of y'all. Did you see Joe Rogan said he thinking about moving to Texas, and a lot of his friends too, because it will be on lockdown for another 3 months. It looked like California seems crazy right now. Man, hey, anybody who's resided in California knows they operate off different rules than everybody else. Now, listen, I don't know why the hell California is locking down the state for another 3 months. What in the hell? Look, of all regions, that needs the economy. Look, something else is going on, man. I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm telling you. Something's going on with California. Some investors are involved in this shit. It's a lot of people that's going to be put out of their homes. It's a lot of people that are going to lose businesses. And then we're going to be right back where we were back in 2008, where the housing market and everything took a plunge, and people swooped in, all these investors, and scooped up these properties for the low and start goddamn a business again. It's something going on. I'm telling you, man. It's a lot of shit that's going on behind the scenes with California being locked down for another 3 months. They trying to goddamn take that city to a whole nother level of poverty, where certain rich investors are going to change some areas over there, some pockets of California. They're going to scoop up those properties, man, once again. And I'm telling you, man, something else is going on. Governor Newsom, somebody's in his ear, and there's no fucking way you're going to convince me that if you see other pockets opening up and rejuvenating and resuscitating the economy, reviving it, why in the hell is California, if this COVID-19 doesn't do well in heat, right? That's what they say. COVID-19 don't do well in heat. California's hot the last time I was over there. Look, I've never been in a place other than combat that wearing flip-flops every day was the norm over in California. So if COVID-19, and from what I'm not hearing of new cases or outbreaks in California, why are they not, just because people are protesting, why are they not open up for another 3 months? They need to open up. So first of all, the economy can start thriving again, and we can have combat sports, because that is one of the nesting beds of combat sports is the West Coast. Hands down, point blank, period. Say what the fuck you want to say. That's real. I know for a fact. It's a school on every goddamn corner. If they want to move to Texas, man, that's huge. That's huge. I mean, Texas right next door. And goddamn Joe Rogan and all his friends, they probably got the money to do the shit. I really love and respect professional UFC fighters, hand-to-hand combat, nothing like it. I was an amateur fighter in 2 disciplines. I'm washed up now, 53 years old. I'm a bigger UFC fan. Hey, man, we all reached that point, bruh. We all reached the point when you have to understand where the composition of your body has degraded. When you hop out of bed to start your day, certain things are going to take a little bit longer. You got to goddamn put the petrol in the system. You got to make some hot coffee and goddamn drink it and get the damn body right. But still, once you start to feel good, it's not going to be like you were when you was in your 20s, your 30s. You're not going to be moving around, having that agility that you was used to, being able to jump start. Listen, I remember I was able to stay out to 5 o'clock in the morning, come in and shower, and then go work a 12-hour shift. Those days are absolutely behind me. I remember I used to go to the club, come back in the AM, shower up, get ready for work, and work a 12-hour shift. Come back from the club, go to PT, 5-6 miles easy, then go to work for a full shift. Those days are over. I feel you, man. I feel you. That shit ain't easy to talk about, man. If I lived in California, I would be thinking about getting out of there. How do they expect people not to work for another 3 months? And it could be more. I salute Elon Musk for opening back up his factory. Lion Killer in the building. What's good, man? Salute to you. Always, man. Y'all go follow Lion Killer LC in the building. I can say this, Josh. Something's going on with California. Real talk, I'm telling you. That place, in my opinion, man, I'm telling you, I'm not saying that's one of the most corrupt places. I'm just saying it's a lot of people that have a value or have a hand in the game of benefiting from California stand on lockdown, and the mortgages, look, the mortgages that's over there. Here, listen to what I know. Listen to what I know. The mortgages over there, when I was able to purchase my house, was on the rebound from a dead stop housing market. You know what I'm saying? I was able to purchase a house that was built that used to be a $500,000 home, but was much lower than that due to the housing market in California, right? And then when the goddamn housing market rebounded, the equity I was able to receive from that house was just, in a short period of time, was amazing. Now we're in a pandemic where California is saying, I'm gonna shut down for another 3 months. People are gonna lose their homes. And check this out. Don't really get all warm and fuzzy about this. Tell your bank, well, I can't pay my mortgage for 90 days or 180 days. They're going to get their money regardless of what you say, regardless of we in a pandemic or not. Unless the House come up and the president come up with an approved bill that makes it allowable for the citizens to refrain from paying their mortgages across the board, and they're able to pass a bill to bail out these mortgage companies, you know what I'm saying, in the process of all these homeowners defaulting on their loan, it's not going to work, because you just can't call up your mortgage company and say, guess what, I can't make my payment. And they're going to say, well, when can you make it? I ain't going to be able to make it to about 3-4 months ago. Well, we'll talk to you then. And in that process, we will continue to charge you interest, and we'll talk to you then. So you think during this pandemic, these mortgage companies gonna goddamn lay down and show us freaking mercy? I can tell you right now, it's not happening like that, especially in California. California have people in $800,000 homes, $1 million homes if you closer to the water. If you have a pinhole where you can see the dolphins on the beach, that skyrockets your housing value. So guess what? If we're in a pandemic and people are not working and they cannot handle that $4,000 mortgage they got, $5,000 mortgage, because they wanted a beachfront house and now they don't have means to support it. And I'm gonna tell you another secret that's over in California. You have a lot of people that are roommates, multiple people living in a residence close to the beach to be able to afford them homes. So if the pandemic is affecting the civilian pop across the board, it don't matter if you had 6 roommates and you all was contributing $1,000 a piece. If freaking 70% of those roommates are unemployed, it's no way the other 30% is going to be able to take over the mortgages that you see in California close to the beach. It's no way in hell. It's no way possible. Even if you rent in a house, if you rent a property close to the beach over there in Cali, you're going to pay an arm and a leg, period. Elon Musk said, fuck the government, come to arrest me. I'm opening back up business and start doing. I'm extending it by 3 months. Just put the fear in people. The California numbers are going down. Well, you know, his pockets are deep. He's on a whole nother level of, you know, he's at another level where he can put that resistance out there. Not the average citizen can afford to open businesses and face fines. He's not caring about a fine. You know what I'm saying? Salute Dundada in the building. What's good? He's not caring about fines. You know what I'm saying? This dude's going to do what the hell he want to do. COVID-19 transmitted any climate, no less, no more. True. But you remember when they were saying that COVID-19, it doesn't thrive as fast in heated environments in the heat. That's what they were saying. I'm just repeating what the media said. I know it's very uncontainable, and we'll see what happens. But I feel bad for the California resident in a sense that in certain areas, especially over there at Huntington Beach, man, Orange County, Carlsbad, San Diego, all around that beachfront, man. Beautiful, beautiful areas. The property value is just, I'm just curious to see what the property value is going to be like in the next 6 or 8 months over there. How many people will have to absquatulate just because they're unable to basically afford, or they are out of work, and he's keeping the economy locked down for another 3 months. I wish I had, some eyes over there. I would definitely like to get a property over there. I'm not gonna lie, man. If you could scoop up a property over there, man, close to the beach, when the housing market is doomed right now from the economy, it'll be the perfect time. Anyway, that's bad to say, man. When other people are out there suffering, I'm gonna leave that alone. That's why learning how to eat clean is important. It gives us a better chance of health wise. True words, man. For blacks in general, we have to definitely get checked out when we get a certain age. You have to get checked for prostate cancer and everything else. So it is good to eat. And also, it's good to drink water. It's good to drink the agua. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be honest, right? I don't think it's a day goes by that they ain't drink water. That's life. I'm talking about ever since I was out on my own. Even before I left home, I used to drink water, tap water, out the spigot on the side of the house. I'm hoping I don't have no residual. Living in the South and all that, we used to drink water out the spigot. But if you do that shit now, you liable to catch a phase 4 parasite, or whatever shit that's in the water right now. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what the fuck you drinking. We grew up jumping in lakes, swimming. Now people swimming in lakes, they getting amoeba, parasites, and all this shit and dying. It's crazy, man. If people start leaving the state, selling houses, selling buildings, with these investors come swoop in and buy these buildings and houses, sell for cheaper during the pandemic because people won't be buying. Man, absolutely. Man, I'm telling you, a part of me, I'm like saying to myself, I wish I could be one of those individuals. Seriously. To get a retirement home over there in California while the housing market sucks right now, absolutely perfect. But I don't want to sit up here and take advantage in someone else's downfall because of the economy. But those individuals, check this out though, those individuals in California, they know they're in a footprint that has a lot of liability placed upon it. That goes for the fires in the summertime, that their house has been burnt down, you know what I'm saying, over and over again. Even when I was out there, they had one of the worst fires ever in California. Even when I was out there, me being from the city, I was like, what the fuck? It's rain. Look, it's precipitating ashes from the sky. Ashes is coming down. They say, do not drive your car. And I'm curious and shit. So I say, you know what? I want to try to see what's going on. So I walked up to the bridge and I want to find this picture, man. I took a picture. I got to find it. I walked up to the bridge where the highway 5 at, I-5, and there's no cars on the highway. They had pretty much shut down the highway at that point because the fire was coming over towards the beach area. And I was still on base at that time. But yeah, there wasn't nobody on the highway. It was amazing. I wish we would have had video footage of that particular incident. But anyway, I jumped in my car, right? I say, let me try to drive up to the store and drive around the beach and see if anybody on the beach and shit like that. Wrong move, because I didn't quite understand the ashes that was precipitating out of the sky, how much the fire, how bad it was burning in California. So when I got home, I said, you know what? Let me pop the hood and check my filter, check my air filter. Man, that air filter was fucked up, man. Serious. I didn't even really see the amount of ash that was coming down until I returned back and I popped out the air filter to my car, and that shit was absolutely black. I was like, damn, I guess that's why they told us to stay our ass in the house. But you know, California residents, man, they in a bad place. And them investors, like you said, they just sitting there salivating. They're drooling. Somebody got in Governor Newsom's or whoever shut that shit down for another 3 months. And man, that's sabotage, so to speak. That's sabotage, bro. How can you shut down California, which isn't elevated in new cases? How can you shut down the damn region when people need to work over there? People need to fucking work. I'm telling you, it's an inside job, man. They want them people to be out on the street. They want more people to go down the Skid Row and become a resident of Tent City. If y'all never been down there in your life, you need to go down there and check it out. Skid Row, you can't imagine that people actually live this way on the street. Anyway, moving on. Done out in the building, World Combat Sports Salute, fam. Let me go back over here for a second. Damn. I remember back in January, the media was saying this virus couldn't be spread. Something fishy is going on. Something like zombies apocalypse. Do you think every country would be out of lockdown by the end of the year? Okay, every country. Well, if we're talking about this country, it's already regional footprints that's opened back up already. So it doesn't matter if the country will be out of lockdown. Internal to the country, you have subunits, which are the regional states that operate under their own government. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Their own governor and mayor and, you know, own ruling system. So it's going to be up to them to basically open up when they feel like it, just like Florida's opening up. You know what I'm saying? You see people posting pictures of them getting a haircut and goddamn shaving their beard. I'm like, you couldn't do that shit on your own? You had to wait till the damn state open up to shave your beard? Come on. Even in the A is open up and allow people to resume their business. So it's not really a country thing, you know what I'm saying? But I know what you're talking about, Josh. But I will say this when it comes to countries. The foreign countries, when it comes to combat sports, is going to matter. It's going to matter a lot to those foreign fighters that's over there. If by chance travel restrictions aren't lightened up just a little bit to allow these fighters and individuals to be able to transport back into the United States to go into fight camp and make a living. Just because these foreign, these neighboring fighters are out of the country, it doesn't mean they're sitting on, easy money. They're over there just chilling. They're going through it just like the fighters over here in the U.S. are going through it. But when you're talking about a larger footprint of combat sports that's over here in the U.S., I believe wholeheartedly that we're going to see life resume in boxing soon enough. Because check out, you had one case with Ronaldo Sosa at UFC 249. And for what my understanding is, for this fight night that just happened, the only fight that fell out was because of weight issues between Robinson and Vinatieri. You put it that way, right? I didn't hear anything about new COVID cases on this fight night. So now we go to step 3. This is the trifecta of the startup. The fight card is this weekend. If that goes out with no new COVID cases for the UFC, then of course we're going to see boxing starting to resume. Of course. If the UFC is out here putting out blackout cards, Why not boxing? Why not? They need a commission. They need judges. It's 2 fighters in the ring. They have three per, I guess, a corner man, trainer, and all that in the corner. So they have damn near, the same requirement of personnel to be present. So you have the 2 fighters, the referee, 3 per corner. You know what I'm saying? That's about 9 people. And yeah, pretty much the UFC had more than 10 people on deck for this fight card. Hands down. They had the media on deck, all that. So boxing is right behind them. Guarantee it. Boxing will be resuming probably in July without fans. So that's a good thing. It's a good point, man. Some it's fishy, man. Real talk. Sounds like zombie apocalypse. I really don't believe in zombies because the only way humanistically I see a human being even emulating or mimicking a zombie is when they're strung out on flakka or any type of high synthetic drug. You know what I'm saying? That's why I can see a human being mimicking or moving like a zombie. That's real talk. I mean, that shit is beast mode. To see a human being just go out like that, lose their mind. But the one thing about zombies, though, from what I know, another similarity is that they can go without food for quite some time. But humanistically, those individuals that you see zoned out like that, they're not trying to eat other humans. They just fucked up. They high as shit. They walking, stumbling down the street. You see them on the side and all that. They just fucked up. In order for a zombie apocalypse to happen, it will have to be a chemical that allows a human being to function for a long period of time without water or food. Else you're gonna die. I don't give a fuck if zombie or not. This ain't I Am Legend, goddammit. Even the motherfucker that was in the dark in I Am Legend, they was eating. They wasn't going out and goddamn ordering Uber Eats. And them motherfuckers is eating. You know what I'm saying? This ain't that life though, y'all. This ain't that life, man. Is Skid Row real bad? I've seen videos. Skid Row is absolutely horrible. The smell down there at Skid Row, for them to have properties down there on Skid Row, tent properties where people reside in. Crimes happen down there on Skid Row all the time. People being assaulted, sexually assaulted, physically assaulted, whatever, thefts, all that. It's unfreaking believable, man. I wish, with my especially the camera equipment I have now, I wish I can go down there and take some pictures. But they, them people, they can get real hostile if you're coming down there trying to snap shots and you ain't a resident and you ain't a bum like them. They get real hostile for real. And one thing, Josh, about Skid Row, those are just not the regular bums that you see. Like Skid Row in California is, some of them people used to be important people. Like they was average citizens that had jobs and everything that fell on hard times, got strung out on drugs, and now they on Skid Row. You got some very smart people that are homeless on Skid Row. That's real. I seen on the UFC last night when they was promoting the Nunes versus Spencer fight, DC said that would be the co-main event of UFC 250. So what do you think would be the main? I'm thinking Usman versus someone. Now, Amanda Nunes versus Felicia Spencer, they can hype that shit up all they want. Seriously. It don't matter how much a chihuahua bark with a pit bull. You know that pit bull will fuck that chihuahua up, right? I just don't see Felicia Spencer, regardless of her going the distance with Christine Cyborg, and then seeing Cyborg demolished and destroyed by Amanda Nunes. I don't see her hanging in there with Amanda Nunes, who's probably going to fight a different fight than what she fought with Cyborg. You know what I'm saying? Both of those individuals has commonalities when it comes to their opposition in Cyborg, right? I don't see Felicia Spencer coming close to beating Amanda Nunes at featherweight. No, it's no way. Amanda's much faster fighter. I think all around, she's much more adept and adequate into her striking to cause damage. And we're talking about a 5-round fight. And I think Amanda Nunes will be able to get a takedown. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, man. It's just tough. Like, Felicia Spencer's a tough fighter. Seriously. She's just not going down to the canvas because she get hit with a punch. You know what I'm saying? That hurt. If you look at the fight she had with Christine Cyborg, man, she took some punishment and she still stayed on her feet. But we all know Amanda Nunes is the best in the game right now. Her and Valentina Shevchenko. You know what I'm saying? Two of the best in the game right now when it comes to women. But the edge goes to Amanda Nunes because she's the bantamweight and featherweight champion. I got to give her props. Not because she destroyed Ronda Rousey after Holly Holmes. I'm just saying, right now, she's the woman. She's the baddest woman in the game. Seriously. To answer the latter half of your question, I don't know who's going to be the main event, man. If they want to put Usman in there with Colby Covington again, the sell the fight, people will buy it. If they put Usman in there with Jorge Masvidal, people will buy it. You know what I'm saying? They have to put Kamaru Usman in there with somebody who's going to complement him. They need to put somebody in there that's going to be able to do something different, outstrike him on the feet, and have good wrestling at the same time. Or else we're going to get another Tyrone Woodley type of fight. And taking nothing away from Tyrone Woodley, I wouldn't mind seeing him shock us by Dana White announcing that Tyrone is going to get a rematch. Because in all honesty, man, Tyrone Woodley deserves another rematch. The man defended his title 4 times, and he did it the best way he could. So for him not to be considered as a rematch right now, all because of the relationship between him and Dana White, that's not cool. That's just not cool. But if you're talking about fan attraction, Colby Covington, it would be good to see him go in there and get beat up again if that's the case. I have to give Colby Covington his props on his boxing skill. But him and Kamaru Usman was taking a lot of punches to the face. It's all who was on the more durable fighter won. You know what I'm saying? And that was Kamaru Usman. He was able to outpoint Colby Covington and get it done. You know what I'm saying? So next time around, I want to see somebody different. Do I want to see Jorge Masvidal in there? Yes. The reason why I want to see him try to go in there and outsmart Usman, give him a different look. I want to see how Usman's cage IQ is against somebody that had a street pedigree, who's came up the hard way like Masvidal, who has multiple losses on his record. You know what I'm saying? I want to see if his intelligence is enough to go in there and come up with a different game plan to lift the title off Kamaru Usman. It's possible, in my opinion. Very possible. But Kamaru Usman needs a fighter to complement him. Seriously. The UFC has handled this well out of the hundreds of people. If you add up the coaches, the fighters, the people on the ground, there are only one person and 2 coaches that have tested positive. Yeah, I mean, those people tested positive in one fight card. And that was Ronaldo Sosa and his coach. That's a done deal. It wasn't repetitive or reciprocated in the fight night that happened yesterday. So that's a positive for the UFC. But that's a solid point. Solid point. Do you think Edson Barbosa will make weight tomorrow? And if he beats Dan, I think his name is Iggy or EJ. Who would you like to see him fight in the top 10 in featherweight? Yair versus Barbosa would be would be good. I agree with that matchup because both of those guys on their feet is very entertaining to watch. Like I said previously, Barbosa on his feet, his spinning technique, he's one of the damn most swift kickers that you will ever see. His fast twitch game is amazing to watch. Barbosa earned a lot more credibility with me for his toughness when he was able to take that punishment from Khabib Nurmagomedov and answer the final bell. Even though he took some punishment, man, I was saying to myself, God damn, Barbosa's fucking tough. Like, he's a different fighter than he was with Cowboy Cerrone. Like, when I seen Cowboy touch him up with the left and knock him down and end up subbing him, I'm like, Khabib is going to destroy this cat. But even though Barbosa lost, I have to give him his props, man. He showed a layer of toughness I didn't think he had. Now, if he go in there against Yair Rodriguez, it'll be a good fight. But we have to see how he looks against Dan, for real. We have to see how he looks, man. It's a lot of changing of the guard with these up-and-coming fighters that's going on right now in the UFC. It's a lot of changing of the guard, man. You're seeing a lot of cats come in on deck from the contender. You're seeing a lot of dudes that's coming over from neighboring organizations. Man, the UFC has a lot of fighters on deck, man. All these popular names that you used to seeing are going to be phased out really soon. Seriously, even Cowboy Cerrone, it's going to come a time when Cowboy is finally out the sport. And look, just as I say that, you got fighters with freaking 18, 19 losses. You know what I'm saying? Andre Arlovski with multiple losses, but he looked sharp last night. But still, there's a changing of the guard. They're bleeding over new fighters, and the MMA fans are going to have to lock in and know the sport. You know, you're just not going to be able to the freaking pronounce some of these names on the male side of the house, like the Dominique Cruzes, Frankie Edgars, Jose Aldos, you know, even when the Chuck Liddells and Tito Ortizes was on deck, the Shamrocks, Rashad Evans came in, you know, with the title, you know, lost it. Man, you had Lyoto Machitas, Forrest Griffin, Stephen Barnes. All those came in, and then the changing of the guard happened at that weight. And then in the UFC, the same thing is going to happen with the familiar names that you're used to seeing right now. Sooner or later, like Nogueira, you don't see Nogueira brothers over here too much. They're very old, a lot of tread on the tires, and you're going to see them out the door. DC, Stipe Miocic is going to be out the door soon. It's going to be a change of the guard in the heavyweight division. John Jones, believe it or not, I don't think John Jones is going to be fighting until he's 40 years old, but it's going to be a change in the guard in the light heavyweight division too, sooner or later. And then the middleweight division, Adesanya is young, right? I don't foresee him reigning as champion for a long time. That's just me. He may prove me wrong. Absolutely. I don't see him reigning for a long freaking time. Kamal Usman, I don't see him reigning for a long time. It don't matter if you African or not. You know, I know they trying to build up the Africans to take over and be champions. Guess what? The Brazilians have did that shit before a lot of us. It don't freaking matter. You know what I'm saying? It's been black champions all over the freaking mixed martial arts and damn boxing. That don't matter. And then Khabib, in my opinion, he's gonna have to meet an opponent that has to take down the fence like Justin Gaethje and has the boxing to give him trouble. The only thing that I present to you, the fight fans, is to understand the pressure. Pressure bursts pipes. And I think if Khabib is able to weather the storm and push Gaethje to the third round, and in the process of the first 3 rounds, have him defending the takedown up against the cage, deplete, fatigue Gaethje, I believe that's the way Khabib is going to win that fight. He's going to be able to get late takedowns like John Jones was able to do with Daniel Cormier, and I think that may be the edge that Khabib needs if he doesn't get knocked out or hurt real bad against Gaethje. Because Gaethje has better hands than Nurmagomedov, period. But I like to see that fight, man. They put Usman with a fighter like Chiesa. The event would do terrible. And I seen the UFC have delayed the Burns versus Woodley fight by a week to May 30th. They're trying to get it in Vegas. Yeah, that's a good fight for Tyron Woodley and Burns. And, you know, both of these fighters have losses, but it'll be good to see them in there. People are sleeping on Tyron Woodley, seriously. But they're eager to see Gilbert Burns step in there and give a good showing of himself, man. Dude is a very quality fighter. He has solid skill set, man, to go in there versus somebody like Tyron Woodley. But you have to understand, Tyron Woodley has been at the top of the heap before. He's not a slouch, and Burns going to have to prove that his name should be in the same conversation as Woodley, period. He's got to prove that shit. If they put Chiesa. No, we don't want to see Chiesa in the main event in Usman. No, we don't want to see that shit, man. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. We don't want to see them too. No. I think Barbosa would do good at featherweight. If he makes weight, well, he fought every top 10 fighter in lightweight. Now he has some new challenges at featherweight. Well, I put it this way. We just seen Jose Aldo drop down to bantamweight. So, look, we always seen Barbosa in shape. We always seen him in shape. So, guess what? Him dropping down to featherweight, I think he might be even faster. I'm like, shit. I'm eager to see how he looks down there. I'm eager to see how he looks against a top 10 opponent. Real talk. I'm curious to see how that is, man. I'm rooting for Barbosa, though. I've always been a fan of Edson Barbosa, man, and his style. Barbosa doesn't really do well with wrestlers, and there's not a lot of wrestlers in the featherweight division. Barbosa would do good if he makes the weight. Now, one thing I could say to caveat to that is he went in there with Khabib at lightweight, and he was able to make it after being taken down. Now, we all know Khabib is a freaking animal when it comes to takedown and pressures. So him dropping down to a division that doesn't have a strong lineup of wrestlers, but more so jiu-jitsu etiquette fighters and strikers, quality strikers. Barbosa might excel in that weight, 145. He might. We'll see. That's a good point, man. Good point. If Gilbert beats Woodley, does he deserve a title shot because Woodley is current ranked number 1 in the rankings? I would say yes. To be honest with you, that's an obvious adjustment right there. Seriously, it's obvious. If he beats Tyron Woodley, who's the number 1, I'm looking at it like this. Why isn't Tyron Woodley being reconsidered for a rematch if he's the number 1 ranking guy in that division? It makes no sense to me. It doesn't have to be anything logical. I'm just saying, if he's the number 1, why isn't he being considered for another title shot? Why? He loses the title, not being knocked out, but he loses it via decision. Usman goes in there and defeats Kobe Covington in a trash talking build up and all this other stuff. But yet Tyron Woodley doesn't get reconsidered. He's not even in the conversation to return to try to get his belt back. I don't get it, man. But to answer your question, if that's how they're going to play it and Gilbert Burns defeats Woodley, then he is entitled to a freaking title shot. Because obviously, if he defeats the number one ranking guy, what's next? Put him in there with damn Usman and see if he's ready. It's how he looks also. If he looks very dominant in the win, then okay, cool. But if he looks like he's having trouble, he had to weather the storm, he barely survived, it's a controversial decision, Dana's not going to put him in there with Usman. I don't think so. And listen, another thing with Dana White will match up fighters by who sell tickets. You know what I'm saying? Dana White's just not going to put a fighter in there because of the ranking system. I'm just saying. Did you see the UFC 249? Yeah, I mentioned that. I mentioned that already. Did 700K PPV buys. Are you surprised by those numbers? I think we may have talked about this on a different live, and I was very skeptical of it even reaching 500,000. I didn't even think it would get even close to 700. That's real. I'm being absolutely honest. I didn't think enough people during this time would tune in to pay $64 for a UFC event. Seriously, with the card, with the main event being a replacement of Khabib Nurmagomedov with Justin Gaethje. I just didn't see it. I thought people would be a little bit disappointed and say, you know what? They've scheduled, I'm talking about the hardcore fans, right? They scheduled this freaking fight in 20 freaking 18, 17, 16, and 15. And then lastly in 2020, and the shit gets canceled. I mean canceled from Tony Ferguson and Khabib. They come around with another replacement in Justin Gaethje, and the shit gets delayed and then pushed to when we was able to see it. Now, it was a success, but I was highly surprised that MMA fans tuned in to that. Seriously, I was seriously surprised. And I'm going to tell you, I'm really looking forward to Bryce Mitchell returning back to the cage. Dude is a whole other different cat. Seriously, for you to work a black belt on the ground like that, that shit is just disrespectful. Bryce Mitchell, the way he worked over Charles Rosa, to be on the ground that long and the fight be that exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing him back in there, right? We already know Justin Gaethje put on a phenomenal performance. We're looking forward to seeing him and Khabib Nurmagomedov. Real talk. We're looking forward to a lot of fighters that was in there. Now, I know a lot of people is like, well, what about Francis Ngannou? What about the new talk between him and John Jones? I definitely want to pay to see John Jones step up and face Francis Ngannou. Yes, I want to see that shit. But what I'm not really impressed about is, once again, Ngannou is in there with the fighter, and he chooses to blitz and have success with blitzing. Now, in the heavyweight division, being that the fighters aren't as, quick, nimble, even Stipe Miocic, you know what I'm saying? He was able to show that he can use Francis Ngannou's impulsive head hunting against him by using his head movement, right? Being evasive. But what Ngannou was able to do to Rosenstruck is just an all-out blitz where the left landed, knocked him down, and then he was able to land, I guess, 2 more shots. I mean, what's impressive about that? Like, Rosenstruck went back in line, not off center, not left to right. He moved straight back, ran into the cage, nowhere else to go, and got knocked out. And people are going around, once again, boosting up Ngannou and saying, he's the hardest puncher. Y'all shouldn't get so hyped up about Ngannou until you see him in there with the well-rounded fighter and see what he does against a well-rounded fighter. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need to reiterate this. Did y'all not see what Stipe Miocic was able to do? Did y'all not see that? I'm not holding that against Francis Ngannou. I'm just saying the fight is out there, y'all. Him stepping in there with Stipe Miocic, that's a fact. That fight happened. Stipe Miocic defended his heavyweight title 3 times before, and then he lost it, came back, and regained the title. So therefore, Francis Ngannou knocking out cats that falls back to the gate because they probably had some intimidation factor going on. He fought a Green Rosenstruck, man. It was a hype. You know what I'm saying? Ngannou knocked out a dude that was coming up and was hyped like Volkan Ozdemir. Volkan Ozdemir was hyped up until he ran into trouble. You know what I'm saying? Cannonier, same with him. Same with Rosenstruck. Now we got Francis Ngannou that's rebounding, and people want to say he needs to get back in there with Stipe. Do Francis Ngannou really want to step in there with Stipe Miocic, or do he want to fight a smaller John Jones? You tell me. Do he want to step in there with the champ? Do he really want to see a DC? Do y'all think Francis Ngannou can knock out DC, or even put in the work that it took Stipe to get to the point of stopping DC? Do you think that Francis Ngannou is capable of pushing the gas like that to get the stoppage? Because I'm going to tell you, DC, if he's going in there against Francis Ngannou, you can guarantee you he's going to use more head movement. He's going to be a much more smarter fighter. And he's going to shoot in for the takedown. Guarantee it. But is he ready for a rematch with Stipe? I would have preferred to see Kobe versus Woodley. But Burns versus Woodley is still good. Yeah, man. You know, look at it this way. It was a bilateral trash talking affair when it comes to Tyron Woodley. You had Leon Edwards and you had Kobe Covington. You know what I'm saying? Those two individuals was tailor-made as far as trash talking to link up with Tyron Woodley. None of them happened. The pandemic took Leon Edwards out, and then Kobe Covington never even came close. And from what I understand, Tyron Woodley was like, he didn't want to fight me. He turned down the fight several times. So what's next? Tyron Woodley has to move on. He has to move on, and if Gilbert Burns is the next guy, cool, let's do it. Because I'm going to be honest, Leon Edwards is not going to be in town anytime soon. And I know he's like, shit, I wish I never would have left now. And also, you know, Khabib, you know, prayers go out to his father who's in a coma right now. He's not doing well. So it's going to be a while before we see Khabib. From my understanding, Dana White is trying to make the fight in September between Justin Gaethje and Khabib Nurmagomedov. So y'all can stay tuned to that. I said they would do over 500K, but 700K is great. That's what's up, man. I mean, you nailed it. You know what I'm saying? You nailed it. I mean, I didn't think they was going to do those high numbers. Especially, I didn't even think they was going to do 500K. I think when you said 500K, I disagreed with it. But, you know, I accept that on the chin. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they showed up. The mixed martial arts fans was yearning to see Tony Ferguson versus Justin Gaethje. Real talk, let's be honest. Out of the entire fight card, they was waiting to see that damn fight. And it didn't disappoint. My God. Look, the fight of the year right now for the mixed martial arts before that fight happened was indeed Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Weili Zhang, right? But this fight, it might have edged it out. The reason why I'm trying to explain to some people, I was trying to help them understand why Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje would outperform Weili Zhang and Joanna Jędrzejczyk, because Weili Zhang had just picked up the title, all right? and she was in the process of defending her title against someone who's had losses, several losses recently, right? And she even moved up to try to face Valentina Shevchenko and lost, right? So if you take someone like Joanna, who's been trying to get back on track since her Thug Rose Namajunas collision, and you take them going back and forth, the more quality opposition both ways will have to go in favor of Justin Gaethje and Tony Ferguson, period. Tony Ferguson, the last time he losing since 2012. Justin Gaethje rebounding off his back-to-back losses to Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier, and then going on a 3-fight win streak. Come on, man. It's a no-brainer. These two linking up, in my opinion, was much more quality matchup than Wally Zhang and Joanna Jędrzejczyk. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just my opinion. Even though Joanna, she had 5 defenses. She stepped in there with 5 defenses. Wally Zhang, man, she's the champion, but it's a lot that was exposed in that fight with her too. But neither one of those individuals, in my opinion, was a Tony Ferguson. Neither one of those, in my opinion, was a Justin Gaethje. That's just my opinion. I will have to kind of cross thread, not genders, so to speak. I'm talking about skill sets. How can I compare the two as being lethal, And no, man, Ferguson and Gaethje, man, on point. I think a lot of times, first-time PPV buyers help the numbers. I think, Don, if we're in an environment like we are now, where it's very limited options, where people can tune in to other collective sports, I think it kind of bottlenecked everybody to tune in to this UFC fight card. With all the promotion that's going on and everything, it kind of allowed people to say, you know what? Let's tune in and watch this freaking fight card that they're trying to put on with the UFC. It ain't shit else on TV. I'm tired of Netflix. I'm tired of motherfucking goddamn looking at regular reruns on the network. Let's freaking have some people over and buy this PPV and let's see what's up. And I'm gonna tell you, it was some pretty decent fights on there. Greg Hardy versus Yorgan De Castro wasn't one of them. Let's be honest. let's be honest with ourselves. Jeremy Stevens against Calvin Kattar, awesome fight. I like that fight. Calvin Kattar, man, Calvin Kattar. Y'all better stay watching out for him, man. Seriously. And then the Carla Esparza, Michelle Waterson. They just didn't. I mean, oh man, I was just wanting to. It was just like nails on a chalkboard. Like, come on, man. Y'all are so far apart. It doesn't matter if you try to throw combinations. You're too far out. Or you try to basically go in for a shot. It was just weird to see Carla Esparza put both hands out like Superman and try to shoot in for a double leg when she has so much space in between them. And then Michelle Waterson started backpedaling, retreating when the fight really wasn't even that intensive. You know what I'm saying? I just think Michelle Waterson was in there to survive, and she didn't want to get stopped. She didn't want to get taken down. It was a good check for her, and she go on about her business. Seriously. Share WCS on all platforms. Appreciate that, man. Thanks for the support, man. Being a wrench in the game. Appreciate that. What about the outrage? I just talked about the outrage as far as people kind of thinking that Anthony Smith took too much punishment. I don't believe so. I think he took, like, you had so many fights that's been out there. Just say, for instance, this, right? For the ones that's been in the game is just as long as I have, right? Just say, for instance, BJ Penn, when he was up there fighting Joe Daddy Stevenson. Joe Daddy Stevenson had a freaking cut on his head. and freaking BJ Penn had him in an RNC, and blood was squirting out like a goddamn fountain. Blood was literally squirting out of the forehead of Joe Daddy Stevenson. So do you think that was worse than the punishment that was Anthony Smith was taking just because he had a split cauliflower ear and he took some punishment and lost a tooth? I don't think so, man. Like, I don't think so. Jonathan Goulet, his fight, he was in a tough fight, man. Even Jim Miller and Joe Lozon, they was in a bloody fight. Stephen Shrewd has been, I'm talking about blood all over the canvas. So I don't know why people saying, okay, this is the outrage. They might be just new to the sport because it's no other combat sports on right now. I get it. I get it. You know what I'm saying? I get it. I get it. But they were saying that the fight went on too long. Anthony Smith took too much punishment. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm thinking a lot of you all are saying that because there was no crowd. You know, Glover Teixeira was dominating him for a solid third and fourth round. His corner was still basically urging him to go back out there and fight. Anthony Smith looking a little exhausted than what we used to seeing him. And, you know, people might have just zoomed in on that shit. You know what I'm saying? They might have just zoomed in on it. But they not crying about Bryce Mitchell the way he dominated Charles Rosa on the ground because it wasn't too many strikes to the face that start bloodying up Rosa. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was dominating this dude. And plus, they probably looked at it as only being 3 rounds. And there was limited facial damage and you know, punches landed by Bryce Mitchell from the top position when he had it. Because believe it or not, when you talk about top position, Bryce Mitchell basically was in dominant position just as long as Glover Teixeira was against Anthony Smith. That's real talk. He was getting his ass whooped last night. I mean, I saw I would have stopped it before, but I'm a casual. Yeah, man, I'm not sure. You know, it all depends, man. I'm not the one in there in the cage. I'm just reporting on it. But I don't know. You just don't see fights being stopped by the corner in mixed martial arts. I'm not saying it's a different code, but it is. It is. You just don't see towels being thrown in the cage. You don't see that shit. People need to understand that you see a boxing match of 10 rounds, 3 minutes per. That's 30 minutes, right? With a break in between rounds, of course. But then you see 3 rounds. How long is that? That's 15 minutes. You take 25 minutes for championship fights or main event fights. You take full 5 rounds, 5 minutes apiece. So you take less minutes per round, and then you compare that to more minutes per round with more variables of striking that a fighter is subjected to offensively and defensively. I mean, the damage is going to vary. Like, believe me, when you look at Mark Coleman being kicked in the head with a shin, where's the cushion between that? When you see Calvin Kattar step in with a right elbow, it's no padding on that motherfucking elbow when it hit Jeremy Stevens in the jaw. That shit was goddamn skin to skin, bone to bone, man. Real talk. When you see fighters checking leg kicks, when they're getting kneed in the rib cage, did you see Glover Teixeira when he had back position? He had back control when of Anthony Smith, and he was landing knees, which in boxing that is illegal to hit in the back area. But Glover Teixeira was landing knees to the back of Anthony Smith. You don't think that's brutal? Like, Mixed martial arts, man, that shit is not for the faint of heart. You know what I'm saying? Glover was landing some hard knees to the back of Anthony Smith. In boxing, you can't even really hit in the back at all. Now, you give a kidney shot, but you really can't hit somebody in the back of the head and stuff like that. Even in mixed martial arts, right? When a fighter is on the ground getting hit with elbows, they may not hit him in the back of the head, but an elbow to the side of the head and to the temple is just worse. You know what I'm saying? A shin kick to the head. If the foot kicks you in the head and the toes hit you in the back, it's still a legal freaking kick. People are not trying to gauge and direct coordinates on their kicks. When they're high kick and it goes up near your head, it's to damn take your head off and knock you out. It's not trying to say, okay, is that kick is going to land right there on the side, the diameter? Okay, the measurement. You know, I wear 11 to 12 shoe. So if I gauge this distance from the fighter and I need to lift my leg up this high, it's none of that shit's going on, y'all. It's none of that shit's going on, man. Who stopped it? A doctor or the ref? The referee stopped it, man. Herzog. He stopped the fight. It was overdue in a sense, but I'm glad he stopped the fight. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad he stopped the fight. Real talk. It was overdue. I'm not gonna lie. It was overdue in the sense that, yeah, Anthony Smith was getting worked. He didn't have any moments where he was able to come back and give us life. So being that he couldn't give us life, it was good for the referee to stop the fight. I mean, it was good because the referee wasn't. I mean, his corner wasn't going to stop the fight. Believe that. Hey, this has been a pleasure, people. As always. Oh, matter of fact, I gotta talk about this too. Boxing. It's a lot that's going on. Boxing should be restarting here in the next couple of months. But one of the topics that's out there, you know, we got Joshua Greer Jr. that's going to be stepping back on deck soon. I'm curious to know he's got a fight day coming up. So I'm going to reach out to my man and see who he's going to be facing. I really hope it's for a title. It'll be great to see him finally get his first world title shot. And if by chance it is John Casimero, oh, that's going to be a good fight. You know, Filipino who's currently training in Vegas. He didn't go back over to the Philippines during this pandemic. So he's still here. So as you all know, Casimero was supposed to face Inouye, and Inouye's over in Japan right now. So that fight's not going to happen anytime soon. So we might see Greer face Casimero. Then you have the talk of Deontay Wilder. Tyson Fury name and Deontay Wilder is in the news for whatever reason, not for reasons of talking about their trilogy, but more so they continue to talk about, well, Deontay would take step aside money if by chance it's $10 million and he gets the winner of Fury and Joshua. On the flip side of that, Joshua has a mandatory in Kubrat Pulev. Now, it's a lot of false media tabloids that's out there basically reporting almost if Deontay Wilder is somewhat promoting or demanding to get $10 million to take step aside money. And if you don't remember, even Bob Arum said he didn't believe that Deontay Wilder would take step aside money because he has a lot of pride and he believes he wants to go back in there and try to get his title back. I believe the same thing. I believe Deontay Wilder truly wants to go back in there and attempt to get his WBC strap back. Seriously. So step aside money at this point in time with the way he lost, I don't see it's logical for him to try to even think about whether it's 10 million or not. to take step aside money and face the winner of Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. Because just say, for instance, if Deontay Wilder say, okay, give me this money, who's going to pay that 10 million? Who's going to pay it? The Saudis? Who's going to pay the 10 million? It's going to have to come from a foreign entity. I don't think any of these guys over here are going to pay step aside money to Deontay Wilder and step aside money to Kubrat Pulev. I just don't see it popping like that. So they have to take that in consideration. And then on the flip side of it, Deontay Wilder, if he so desires to get the winner of Fury Joshua, do you believe Joshua, if he's able to win, I don't see him beating Fury. That's just me. I don't see Anthony Joshua defeating Tyson Fury. But just say, for instance, that he's able to do that. Do you believe he will step in there and fight Deontay Wilder? Do you believe he will honor and he will go back in there to face Deontay Wilder? If indeed Deontay Wilder does have it contractually stipulated that he will face the winner of Fury Joshua. I don't think so, man. I mean, I may be wrong, but all the hoopla and all the damn corners and twists and turns that he put Team Wilder in 2018 when they was initially negotiating this fight, maybe shit's don't change. But I know he took an L against Andy Ruiz. Deontay Wilder took a loss against Tyson Fury. So when it comes down to the trilogy, I will hope Deontay Wilder goes back in there and fight for the trilogy, because the way the fans was on his back, being so critical of him heading into the fight with Tyson Fury, and he was undefeated. I can't imagine what they would say if he did, in fact, take a heavy-ass $10 million step aside, which that's just a figure. That's a lot of freaking money for step aside. That's a lot of money. But I believe the fans would even criticize him even more for being scared to step back in there against Tyson Fury. The reason why I'm saying that, they're not going to really compare or take into consideration what Tyson Fury did. Tyson Fury didn't take the immediate rematch. Tyson Fury went up here and fought Tom Schwartz and Otto Walling, went over there and fought Braun Strowman in the WWE, and then came back around February 22nd and fought. So if Deontay Wilder refuses to come back for an immediate rematch per his contractual agreement, and he chooses to take step aside money, what's the difference? The difference is the fans and the people that support Deontay Wilder and the people who don't support Deontay Wilder. They're going to be more critical to say, good, he stepped aside, he's out of the way. They're going to criticize him even more. So it's all about the mindset on what Wilder's thinking. And for what he's shown to be a warrior, he's going to try to step back in there, man, and try to get his title back. That's just my assumption. Because either way it goes, the fans are not going to adore him even more, stepping aside so Fury can face Joshua. But they're missing the fact that Kubrat Pulev also is saying he wants to fight Joshua. He ain't trying to take step aside money. So how's that shit going to play out? Wilder needs to get at Fury first. I would take the bag. Hey, man, I think both of us would take the bag, man. 10 mil? Shit. Salute. See you. I mean, that's a lot of money. Hey, I could have said shit. When Joshua said, give me 50 million, I'll fight you tomorrow. That's another thing, like shit. How can you not take $50 million guaranteed? Guaranteed. And then you set to probably make another 30 mil. All you had to do was come to the States and fight. No rematch clause, mano a mano for all the marbles. That's what Deontay Wilder's team wanted. We give you 50 million. We ain't giving you everything, goddamn it, with motherfucking gold chips on top of that damn bag. We give you 50 million. No, we're gonna put some stipulations in there that benefit us, because that's a heavy ass damn gift that we gave you. You asked for 50 million. We want you to come on here to the States and the fight need to happen in 2018, and it needs to be no rematch clause. Let's go. And Anthony Joshua turned the shit down. I would have took that motherfucker. So 10 million step aside money. A lot of people, they're done, is definitely going to say, hey, check this out. I'll take the 10 million. That's not as, I mean, that's a pretty nice bag right there. And to get the winner of Joshua Fury. But when you have, you know, your reputation on the line, you just lost your belt, took your first loss in your career. You was champion over 5 years. You know what I'm saying? And not to mention that was your 11th defense. So of course Deontay Wilder, not speaking for him, will want to go back in there and further cement his legacy by defeating Tyson Fury, putting that shit to bed. Deontay Wilder defeat Tyson Fury. I don't think it's going to be a fourth bout anytime soon. He get his WBC belt back. Joshua keeps his shit. He's able to goddamn defeat Kubrat Pulev. Then potentially we may see Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder. But that's so far into space, we don't even freaking know. We don't even know, man. Was he hurt and coming back too soon, like Roy? I can't really say what was going on. He had an operation. He injured his bicep, and that's the only thing I can speak on. You know what I'm saying? If he was hurt, he had surgery after the fight, and he's in the healing process right now. So whenever that shit come around with them two fighting, I'm game to see it. Real talk, I'm game. But hey, that's all I got, people. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. Once again, World Combat Sports on deck. Appreciate the ones that dropped through: Don Dada, Josh, Michael, Fat Daddy Trucker. Appreciate the donation from Mike. And everybody else who tuned in today, man. You know what it is. It's another mixed martial arts fight card that's going down this weekend. I'm not gonna live stream it and all that. People be getting butt hurt, you know, reporting videos and shit, even though you're not even showing the shit. You know what I'm saying? Even though I got showed the damn one freaking fight. They want to block the video and shit like that. So you got to abide by the rules, man. But definitely I have a freaking stream on it though. Seriously. But man, the wrenches, salute to you that's in the building. Y'all take it easy, man. Be sure to turn up and tune in to World Combat Sports.